bottom films of 2022. I've got 3. Alan, what are
I've got 5.
yours?
I've got 5.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and I will say that these movies are not, indie films. These are stuff the studios put out. So I'll qualify worse films that way. But I'll start. Number 5 is Armageddon Time. I was okay with it when I first saw it, and then as I kept thinking about it, it just got more pretentious and pretentious as I kept thinking about it. But it's basically a movie about white guilt, about a white man's guilt, about the racism he's had in his life, and listening to Anne Hathaway talk about her craft, it just really soured me on this movie. So it's a very pretentious movie, and you'll see it when if you ever decide to watch it.
Right.
Number 4 is The Sun. And I feel bad about this one because it talks about suicide and mental health. But the script, the story is just so basic. And this is the guy who did The Father, which I really liked. Florian Zeller, I believe, and it stars Hugh Jackman. And it's so predictable. Everything about this movie. This is a classic movie where the audience will be an hour ahead of the movie, and you're just waiting for the moments to happen. And then there's the ending, which highly predictable. And when it happens and you see the scene where it happens, you're thinking in your mind, okay, just waiting for it. And it just goes on and on until it finally happens. And you're like, thank God this movie's over. So The Sun. Number 3, Chris, you'll like this one, but it's Babylon.
What?
My number 3 bottom film is Babylon. Save for 3 really good scenes, the movie is just 3 hours too long, and it's a chore to get through. It is an absolute chore to get through. And as much as I like movies, this did not spur my love of movie making whatsoever. So I'm with Eric Weber on this one. Number 2 is Strange World.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a Disney movie, so you got paid a lot.
Oh, hey. Well, wait to see number 1. But Strange World, this is a classic example of putting agenda before story.
Right.
I'm not against diversity. I'm not against LGBT stories, but again, the story has to come first.
Right.
And if the goal of your movie is to be diverse and to diverse in color, in race, in sexual orientation, that's fine, but you still got to have a good story. And the thing about Strange World, the thing that got me in this movie is midway through, they're complaining about like the elders are saying every story has to have a villain, and the boy is saying no villain, no story needs a villain. And so basically the story is saying, hey, our Strange World is so good it doesn't need a villain, when you realize it really needed a villain, and that these guys don't know anything about storytelling at all. And then finally, the worst movie of 2022 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Again, another misguided movie. Didn't help that Chadwick Boseman died. Didn't help that it was done during the pandemic, and it was just the biggest letdown of the year. I was on board saying, the thing that this movie has going for it is Ryan Coogler, and he couldn't pull it off. And they just went in all the wrong directions. And I think when they finally killed off Angela Bassett's character, the Queen, that was to me realizing that this franchise has no more legs to it whatsoever. And as much as I like Letitia Wright and Shuri, she's not the Black Panther. So that's my top 5.
She's a good side character.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good supporting character, let's say.
Yeah, and I feel bad for the series. I feel bad for the franchise. I feel bad for all the actors involved.
Well, I think I made a terrible choice. They made a terrible choice by deciding not to recast Chadwick Boseman. They made a terrible choice. Now, I think they could amend that choice with some multiverse stuff and have a new actor come in as a Black Panther from another Earth that ends up on our universe, so to speak. But Yeah, that was a huge miscalculation, which is perfect to introduce my bottom list,
Okay.
which I was amending as you were doing yours. I
So you
see.
added a few of mine. Did you add
Well,
Babylon to it?
no, Babylon's on one of my top. Did you see my list?
Yes, I did.
All right. Well, we'll get to your
I
comments.
just like the fact that one of your films on the top is it's on my bottom.
All right, that's okay. It's
I love
bound
the
to happen.
phrasing. I love the phrasing of this segment.
It's fine. Okay. So the bottom of 2022, there's too many to add. I feel like 2022 was a terrible year for movies. Everything from like Women Talking to After Sun, which was highly overrated, to so many. Um, it's one of those things where when you're struggling to come up with a top 10 list or struggling when it comes to a top whatever, God, that's really bright, isn't it? When I switch to it's just super bright. I don't know how to fix
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you
It is
have a
what it is.
shine on your face. That's the only problem right now with your lighting.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it a shine?
A
Well, there you go.
shine. Yeah.
It can't be helped. But look, there was so much that was awful, but I included some series. Okay. So we're gonna start with at number 7. The thing is, there's just too many to put on the list. It would be a list of I put all other movies because there's just so many bad.
This year was especially bad.
This year was a weak year for film.
Absolutely.
It was a weak year for film. Number 7, which was your number 1, Wakanda Forever, is my number 7. I think choosing not to cast Chadwick Boseman was a huge mistake. They should have continued that character. Excuse me. Number 6, Pinocchio. It's the Robert Zemeckis Pinocchio.
Okay.
With Tom Hanks. It was terrible. It came to streaming only. It was an embarrassment. Disney, a lot of Disney on here. Strange World. It was just a bad story that, like I say, looked like it was written by a teacher that would be featured on Libs of TikTok. So I was not a big fan of Strange World. I think a lot of the message, so to speak, was so forced. You're not leading the audience along. It just really just terrible, and it tanked at the box office. Obi-Wan Kenobi is on my list.
Oh, you're putting TV in there too?
I just threw TV in because I threw TV in because there's just too many movies to put on this list. And I wanted to make sure to acknowledge it's the bottom of 2022.
Okay. I just did movies.
Okay, you just did movies. All right. Well, I'm sure you're not going to disagree with me on many of these.
Yeah.
But Strange World, Kenobi at number 4. Number 3 is She-Hulk. I feel like that movie, just as it went on, it kind of started out like, oh, there's something interesting. A flawed female character. Where do we see flawed female characters? She's kind of an asshole and a bitch, and that's good. It's good. Characters can start one way and have a lesson and learn something. And I like flawed characters are interesting. And it went off the rails by the time it got to episode 4 and was insulting by the end. Number 2, Rings of Power, just never took flight. I think it was boring. I think part of what it needed to do is bring in people who are not fans of Tolkien or Lord of the Rings, and Rings of Power just ended up being a snore fest. And the number one movie on my bottom of 2022 list is Bros. It's Bros. Billy Eichner, who I actually like in small doses when he would do his Billy on the Street. He's also been in shows like, for example, Parks and Rec. I thought he was a real likable actor. And he just could not sustain being the lead of a film. And the fact that the marketing immediately pivoted to, well, the audience is homophobic. I think that's wrong. I think that's a completely wrong way to promote a film. And of course, you never see them using that strategy for a movie that's successful, right? It's only movies that people don't like or it doesn't perform well at the box office. But this is the thing is there's just too many other movies to put on this list.
Yeah.
It would literally be a list of 25 things. So it's hard to come up with a top 10 list, yet easy to come up with, like, we could do bottom TV, we could do bottom, like, streaming, bottom, like, bottom at the box office. But there are movies that I would put on this list, something like She Said, which is by all accounts a good movie, but tone deaf. Hollywood is tone deaf because they have not, you don't atone by making a film. Okay. You don't atone by making a film. There are women,
especially when you were involved in what happened in that film.
There are women with Oscars on the shelves that were involved with Harvey Weinstein who are very quiet now.
Yeah, didn't Meryl Streep call him God at one point? And
there are women and there are people who have Oscars on their shelves that made deals in a quid pro quo situation that have Oscars that are very quiet now. And make of that what you will.